Good morning, everyone. I think we better make a start. Um, it has been a very hectic weeks in the past 2 or 3 weeks when we were preparing this, but I'm glad that you are here today. And thank you very much for your response and participation and welcoming this event. It has been very overwhelming. We thought we would have smaller group, but in fact we register something like 120 people, so we might be having more later. And also thank you for the speakers who are also very enthusiastic to contribute their thinking and ideas. In fact, we had to limit the number of them for the sake of time, but in each session we will have 90 minutes, so all speakers will have relatively short time to present their work so that the audience can have time to discuss, perhaps somewhere around 30 minutes. Forgot to introduce, my name is Daniel Murdiar, so I'm principal scientist at CIFOR, so I've been working with a lot of people in preparing this, especially with Pak Agus and Pak Nazir when we were in Oslo and trying to shape what we would be doing in this exchange. So who are here actually? When I look at the list of participants, the representation is quite balanced in all sectors. If you are scientists, not university people, can you raise your hand? Researcher, majority. University people, quite a number of them, student as well. Private sector, few, but quite some. And NGO, few, very few of them. Okay, so here we are. What make us to be here? Why we are here? I think we all have a common interest to share, to exchange our experience and knowledge. So that's why we are here. And the number I had keep adding up so that we are sure we will talk about common thing today. And how do we convey our message? We designed the conversation in two forms. One is the dialogue of panel. We have set this kind of situation so that people can talk with each other, representing their own institution or agencies, so that others can hear, and then you can interact with that. And then also a style of presentation as well in the parallel session. So we hope that with that kind of conversation, we will have a common language. So we have a common interest, we have common language, and I hope, and I'm sure we have a common subject here, which is peatland. So before I give you some information about practical thing, let me charge ourselves what we are going to do today. Deki, can you show the charges that we have so that we have ideas what to do? We have three things to do. From the scientific point of view, we are trying to see how science progress. I think CIFOR is about to make sure that we deliver this and also facilitate colleagues and partners to do the same. So we provide this platform for everybody in terms of science so that we can identify what's the gaps, if any, in order to improve our communication, how to inform decision-making processes. So it is a scientific meeting, but we're also aware of the private and public sector, how they partner. Are they doing the right thing or heading towards the right direction? Is it demonstrated on the ground? So if not, or if it is, still minimum, how can we enhance that? what is the challenges and opportunity to do that. So public-private science. And lastly, this is somewhat national, but also subnational, or even individual project agenda in terms of emission reduction. So we would like to see how emission reduction target at national level, 29, 41%, will be met, and how peatland restoration agenda will be part of it. So will they be included? We have seen the so-called forest reference level to include peatland, but how they are going to be accounted for, we are not sure. So again, this platform is to try to exchange with these charges. If we can identify those and discuss it today. So at the end of the day, we would like to see how these questions or charges will be met by all of us. So this is a platform for everybody. This is not only CIFOR, but CIFOR facilitating this, so that all stakeholder partners can use this occasion to do exactly that. So that's my part as to introduce this exchange, this event today. Before I invite Dr. Robert Nasi, the Director General of CIFOR, to give his kind words for all of us, how we are heading and where to go, and what CIFOR can do today, I would like to give you some housekeeping announcement on some practical issues. For those who are not familiar with this building, the exit are there, also there. In case of emergency, you can rush slowly to the assembly hall somewhere near the football field. The restroom is in the passage here. It's a container type of restroom, very nice and hygienic. And also the one near the changing room for the swimming pool. Coffee and lunch will be served here in this area near in the veranda of this hall. So we do not move too much in terms of break, so that we can make the time as efficient as possible. One of the parallel sessions will be held in the Amazon room. Some of you already there. It's not far from here. You will be directed to go there. And for those who do not speak Bahasa Indonesia, in case some people make some conversation in Bahasa Indonesia, you are equipped with headset.
Thank you, Daniel. Good morning, everybody. I think we are all here because we are sharing a common interest in a very special ecosystem that is a very hot, sometimes burning topic. And unfortunately for the peat, I mean, it's sort of, you only hear about peat swamp and peat forest when they are burning. But in fact, they have a huge importance. And they have a huge importance to be kept effective functional ecosystem. For biodiversity, they have a huge importance for ecosystem services. They have a huge importance for some water regulation, some impact on pollution. So, and they have also a disproportionate importance in terms of carbon storage. With the mangroves, and for some of you that were around, we had a couple of weeks ago a seminar on blue carbon, which is the carbon stored in mangrove, seagrass, and other coastal ecosystem. And mangroves and peat swamp are the ecosystems that are storing the most carbon, and as such, play a very important role in potential greenhouse gases emission when they are degraded or destroyed. And unfortunately, a large amount of the tropical peat and peatlands have been destroyed. Some new areas have been discovered in Congo. There are large areas in the Amazon, but there are huge areas in Indonesia. This is the one we are going to discuss here during this dialogue. And I think for me, as forest ecologist, it's the utmost importance to conserve whatever we can conserve now in terms of peat. I mean, I don't think that development on peat is a good idea in general, especially on deep peat. And at the same time, we need to rehabilitate, restore the area that have been degraded. And to restore that, I mean, we need to be realistic also. It will probably be very difficult, if not impossible, to restore deep peat as it was before someone touches it. So we need to keep in mind that if we want to restore, it's a very difficult task, it's costly, and we will need the involvement of the private sector, and people will need to get something out of the restoration, because if you don't remove the reason why the things have been degraded in the first instance, there is no point in restoring them. So I think it's all the things that we probably want to discuss during this dialogue. I will not speak longer because, as Daniel said, we have a lot of speakers, and you are probably more interested in listening to the contents than someone making some generalities. Welcome to our nice campus. You are in the Global Forestry Hall of the CIFOR campus. Thank you all for coming. And before closing, I would just like to us to give a few second thought of our Indonesian friends and colleagues that have been affected by the earthquake in Lombok. I know Pagos told me that the 4D office has been destroyed in Mataram. Think about them. They are in difficult thing, and our thoughts and our heart are with them. Thank you very much.
Until yesterday afternoon, Pak Nasir Fuad, the head of BRG, was ready to come, but some sudden meeting was arranged for him to join. So last night he confirmed that he could not make it, but we are lucky to have Dr. Alu Dong, his deputy
DG of CIFOR, Professor Daniel Mudiarso, and distinguished guests. Very good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to pass on apology from Pak Nasir because he unable to join us this morning to this important meeting, because at the same time, at that moment, he has a joint meeting with Minister of Coordinating Ministers of Politics, Law, and we call it, Politics and Law and Security to discuss about anticipating fires, forest and peatland fires due to upcoming Asian Games in Palembang and Jakarta. So he passed on his warm regard to all of distinguished guests and participants of this very important meeting, and he asked me to give a short remark on his behalf. So secondly, BRG appreciates CIFOR for conducting many research on tropical peatland in particular, in many or various aspects such as ecology, social, and policy. And particularly gratitude goes to Professor Daniel Mudiarso because he has worked with us in recent months to develop, we call it emission reference levels for calculating emission reduction contribution from restoration in 7 provinces in Indonesia. So for your information, BRG established a special study team to conduct uh, uh, study to develop emission reference level as a contribution of peatland restoration in reducing greenhouse gases emission. And this document already completed, and we can see this as a basis for measuring the contribution of peatland restoration measure in reducing greenhouse gases in Indonesia. And we also see this kind of document as part of the biggest achievement that BRG accomplished this year. And we hope this very useful document can be used for many stakeholders in order to see the contribution of peatland restoration in reducing emission in Indonesia. Distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, scientific research on tropical peatland restoration we can perceive as an infancy state of development. So there are therefore many research need to be done in coming future in order to help us in doing, in particular, peatland restoration in efficient, effective, and in incredible ways. So therefore, we hope that collaborative research amongst provincial, national, and international scientists need to be done in order to achieve this, or in order to address these gaps. And many countries also, Pak Agus and I also were in Congo, in Brazzaville, in the beginning of the years. Many tropical peatland and last but not least, local wisdom and local knowledge actually need to be continuously documented in order to guide us to produce good practical guidance on peatland management, as well as formulating peatland policy that benign and appropriate to the locals, culture, and grounded into the heart of the communities. I think that's one of the important that we need to do in the future. And finally, yeah, this is the last one. I wish we can have a productive and fruitful discussion for today. And BRG actually looking forward for practical and scientific recommendation from this event to help us to materialize and as well as to success peatland restoration in Indonesia. So again, I said congratulations for CIFOR, for Porda, Pak Agus, as an organizer of this event and very important meeting, I think. And yeah, I thanks for all of you for kind attention and very good morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Alu, for kind words, especially for CIFOR, and also a message cut across the sector and also geography, from local to global, and also from science to culture. That's very filling kind of message for all of us. I would like to welcome Pak Agus Yustianto, who is the Director General for Fordia. It's got a new name. We used to say Forda, it's Fordia now. It's got bigger role in terms of innovation. So we want to hear your message, Pak Agus, and how we are going to proceed from here.
Pak Robert Nasi, DG of CIFOR, Pak Aludohong from BRG, Pak Daniel Murdiarsa, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. First of all, I would like to extend my appreciation to the CIFOR. It is my great honor to be here in this opportunity to address this important meeting and share 4 years experiences in peatland-based research and development to provide better techniques, financial mechanism, and policies for managing Indonesian peatlands and contributing to global climate actions. This includes linkages of government efforts on tropical peat restoration, the role of science in speeding up the implementation of NDC under the Paris Agreement, the expectation from the exchange today, and a brief overview and an update on International Tropical Peatland Research Center. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, peatlands are important natural ecosystems with high value for biodiversity conservation, climate regulation, and human welfare. The peatland ecosystems offers significant benefits to surrounding communities, including timber and non-timber forest products, such as fruits, rattans, medicinal plants, and fish. Indonesia is one of the world's most biologically diverse countries, contains the largest expanse of tropical peatlands in the world, and therefore has an important role for the world in maintaining the stability of ecological zone, defining the protected peat dome and deep peatland to be protected and requiring concession holders to revise their respective working plans to control protected peatland zones. Meanwhile, the non-protected or cultivated peatland zone can be planted as usual. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, promoting traditional practices is part of restoration of peatland. Currently, innovative community-based approaches like Desa Peduli Gambut or peatland managed by villagers are in practice, which is developing governance structure based on the peat hydrological unit to ensure that peat domes are managed through ensuring the stable water level as a key scientific principle. To reduce deforestation and peat degradation while promoting social forestry program is conducted as a part of the efforts on peatland management under participatory villagers. This led the equally reduced national deforestation rates by 24% from 2016 to 2017. And vulnerability to fires by 32.8%. Forest and peatland is important element in NDC Indonesia. It covers 17% out of 29% of emission reduction up to 2030 in business as usual basis. Distinguished colleagues, in these 2 days exchanging knowledge and experience forum, I do hope all stakeholders can discuss many ideas related to improvement for peatland restoration program. Network of the peatland, like mandate, will be enhanced, knowledge of the current progresses in scientific and policy concerning the roles of peatlands will be improved, and support from the international community for the establishment of an international center of excellence for tropical peatland research will be strengthened. Also, at this exchange knowledge, we need to support Peat Restoration Agency or Badan Restorasi Gambut as the restoration implementer agency to have better agenda on restoration with a clear, precise, and efficient restoration program. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, in these remarks, I will take the opportunity to explain a brief overview and update about the International Tropical Peatland Center or TROPPEAT. As you all understand that managing tropical peatland is a new political urgency that requires strong science support. This document briefly outlines a new International Tropical Peatland Center to be based in Indonesia. There are some rationales on this idea. The first one is peatland is a central challenge. Climate change is the defining dilemma of our times. Storing 30 to 40% of global soil carbon deposit on only 3% of the world's land surface. Tropical peatland ecosystems are a key component of tackling this issue and crucial to preserve. Yet, tropical peatlands are diminishing more and more every day. There is an urgent need for interdisciplinary, coordinated, science-based national and international political responses that juggle with the development and climate objective of tropical countries. The second one is that tropical peatlands are found in more than 80 countries, yet they remain among the least understood and monitored ecosystem in the world. Conducting new integrated research is paramount to informing proper prioritization between countries, sometimes competing objective of climate and development goals, and finding ways for peatland conservation, management, and restoration to serve as a plausible aid to both. Peatland management is more advanced in some countries than in others, offering valuable opportunities for South-South cooperation and the sharing of lessons learned in such policy and decision-making processes. To this end, establishing an international tropical peatland center in the global south is essential at this point in time to develop interdisciplinary and integrated research for development focused on peatland, to build capacity of governments, international organizations, universities, and research centers, the private sector, civil society, donors, and practitioners will involve in the organizational structure. In line with the Government of Indonesian large political interest to establish such a center, it will be based in Indonesia. Leadership will adopt a learned structure, including coordinator and international steering committee. I do hope that the International Tropical Peatland Center that will be based in Bogor can further strengthen coordination among various institutions concerned on sustainable peatland management. And I do hope CIFOR will be a part of the main actors to establish the International Tropical Peatland Center. I thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Leveling the playing field. Thank you, Pak Agus. It was a brand new information we just heard this morning. International Tropical Peat Center, Tropical Peatland Center. We changed the exchange into center. That's this room will be about in the years to come. So I think, to be fair, I would like to show again the charges that was displayed for those who just join in. in the context of what Pak Agus just said with regard to the IP, whatever it was, the acronym IPTC, we may need to add one more point or bullet or perhaps integrate this in the context of the lesson that are learned in Indonesia to be extrapolated globally, as it was also indicated by Pak Aludohong. So maybe we are also charged to have a bigger kind of agenda today, and think about that when you break out into a parallel group as well as in the plenary, which are going to be here. So yes, I think 8:30 to start is too early, and many people just lurk in after 9. And it was designed for today's Pak Agus, but we thought one day would be appropriate. But the consequences is that we have to compress all the session, start earlier and finish late. That's the reasons. So thank you very much for all the speaker for this opening session. I was going to ask, is there anyone in the audience who are reporters from the media? Can you raise your hand? No? Okay. So I think with that, we just want to continue to the next session, which is going to be in this room. It is live stream, and I would like to invite Christopher to chair this session, the first panel one. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. I would like to invite the panelists first to join me here on the podium, which are Ibu Emma, Pak Dasono, Ibu Sri, and Pak Arif. Please come here and take a seat. Not everybody here, apparently. Ibu Emma? On the way, yeah. Okay, maybe we are lucky and she joins us. Okay, thank you very much for being here. Okay, I should do several things. First, I should introduce myself. My name is Christopher Matthews. I'm a biologist. I work here in CIFOR since 2013. I'm the team leader for climate change, for the climate change program in CIFOR. And I also started my career as a researcher in the Brazilian Amazon, working in wetlands. So I know the background from scratch, so to say, from the ground, about how it is in peatlands, how it is in wetlands. Emma, good morning. You made it just in time. Please take a seat. And so I'm happy to be here 40 years later and speaking at this event and actually introducing the panelists and the day's program with this first panel on national exchange. The national exchange will be about policies and about numbers, about data needed to support those policies. We will have later sessions dealing with all questions related to peatlands and climate change, peatlands and hydrology, peatlands and biodiversity and community engagement. These will be the topics of the later sessions. Plus we will have another plenary like this one. This is a national dialogue, and we will have a sub-national dialogue. So right now we can concentrate on the regulations and on the data. And I'm going to introduce the panelists in a minute, but before I do that, I want to make a few remarks. You already heard a few numbers this morning. 29 is the percentage reduction target by the Indonesian NDC, so it relates directly to the Paris Agreement. So that's the goal for achieving reductions by 2030 if there is no no external help. If there is external help, the goal would raise to 41%. So 30%, 40%, these are quite ambitious goals, and this is something we should keep in mind for this session. Another set of numbers is 3 and 30, or 3 and 40. You heard this already in the presentation by Paalu this morning. So 3% of the global area, that's where peatlands are, could be 4, could be 5, but let's say 3, hold 30 to 40% of the global carbon. So there's a lot of huge carbon density in peatlands, and that's why there is a global interest in preserving peatlands. And this affects everybody, not just Indonesia. I'm German, I come from Germany, where 94% of all peatlands have been lost that originally covered the country. So 6% are left. 6% of our original peatland area in Germany is only left. And even then you still have people exploiting peatlands for economic gain. So it's not something that singles out Indonesia, although certainly Indonesia is one of the largest peatland countries in the world. A few years ago we thought it was the largest, but since we published a new tropical peatland map in 2017, we know that there are huge peatland areas also in Peru and in Brazil. That doesn't mean you can go home now. We still have work to do in Indonesia, and a lot of work to do. And that's what we're going to discuss today, and part of it in this session. So these peatlands in Indonesia hold these global benefits, of course, but also local benefits. You heard before the approach coming from the local to the global. Of course, the peatland communities are very, very important to have and to preserve and to work with people who live in peatlands for their benefits as well as for the benefits of preserving peatlands. Peatlands are not really counted in carbon budgets because they are there and the carbon is below ground. But so that's why there is the term climate change amplification. If you would release all that carbon that's in peatlands, you would amplify the current climate signal drastically, and so that's why the global concern is really there. But then the local concern is there because without local people who preserve those forests, who work with them, who live in them, you cannot get anywhere. We'll deal with this in later sessions. So certainly halting peatland loss at all costs is needed. Restoring peatland, rebuilding wetlands and peatlands is another important goal. It's difficult, it's costly, it's certainly going to cost more, much more than preserving what is there. So let's work for this, but let's be aware that preservation is the first goal. And then manage sustainably and balance the needs of the local needs and the global needs. I think these are the three goals that we need. So preserving, restoring, and managing sustainably. So in this panel, we will discuss first the national regulation, the national situation, policy situation around peatlands in the context of climate change regulation. We will then discuss national action, including the private sector, and we will also look at data, the data situation, to monitor progress from action to results. This is what you need. You need to understand what's happening. You need to be able to measure what's going on and eventually correct your course. So in this session, then I'm going to give the floor to my four panelists, who are thankfully sitting here already. So Ibu Emma Rahmawati, who is Director for Climate Mitigation at the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. She will speak first about the national regulation. Then we have Darsono Hartono, who is well known in our circles already for his efforts on the private sector commitment. He leads the company PT Rimba Makmur Utama, Then we have Ibu Sri Pawati Budi Susanti. She is the director for peatland degradation control, also at the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. And finally, Pak Arif Darmawan from the University of Lampung. So each speaker will talk for about 5 minutes. So forgive me right now from the start if I interrupt you, because we need to move on. We are already a bit late. So then, after this 5-minute introduction speech, we will have a small discussion on the specific topic you introduced, and then move to the next speakers. That should give us more or less 1 hour, and then we'll have ample time for question and answer with you, the audience. So that's going to be the session. I'm going to sit down here. Take this. Okay. Oh, you have one.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'll give you the floor. Please let us know a little bit about the regulatory framework in Indonesia in the context of climate mitigation, how peatlands fit into this, and how all this relates to the Paris Agreement. Please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Dr. Agus Yusyanto, the head of Fordia, and also Dr. Pak Daniel Muriarso, and Bapak dan Ibu. It's an honor for me to be here in this very important event. I would like to share with you how important is peatland for us in the context of NDC. Of course, what I'm going to share with you is really focusing on our NDC target. As we have already aware that Indonesia has unconditional target in our NDC that we are going to achieve by 2030 is 29%. And this target will be achieved by implementing 4 categories of mitigation actions under the reducing deforestation, and then reducing degradation, including enhanced carbon stock, and then rehabilitation of forest and land. And the most important thing is the restoration of the peatland for 2 million hectares with the successful rate for 90%. So how can we assure that this target, this number could be achieved in 2030? Of course, we have a modality before 2020 that we have been started to prepare since we have ratified the Paris Agreement. So we have started with the implementation stage. We have Law number 16, 2016 on the ratification of Paris Agreement. And then we have NDC document, and we have also currently ministerial decree on monitoring of NDC implementation. Of course, we refer to the existing regulation. If we are talking about the forestry sector, we have law number 32, year 2009, we have law number 41, and we have also specific dedicated regulation on peatland, which is presidential regulation number 71, year 2014, and it was amended with presidential regulation number 56, year 2016. Under these 2 government regulations, measures in peatland, it is very much in line with our scenarios in our NDCs, and also in our target to achieve NDC. So if we could ensure that all those regulations could be comply with by all those stakeholders, not only governments, ministry, but also provinces and private sectors and also community at the site level. We could be very confident to achieve our target by 2030. But again, still, it depends on us how we could really commit to our regulation with our target with this peatland management. 5 minutes?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, what are the specific regulations for peatlands, and what are possible problems? This is live streamed, so maybe other countries want to learn from your experience. So, how can they avoid mistakes, or what can be done to speed up the process?
Yeah. Our biggest challenges is forest fire, peatland, in the peatland area. So we have implemented many measures in the peatland. I think Ibu Ati and Pak Darsono from BRG could share further with you about the implementation of this regulation. It is mitigation. So how can we calculate the achievement of this mitigation? We work closely with this institution. This week, this Friday, we will have a review on our calculation on the achievement of mitigation action in forestry sector, including in peatland. So because we have we prepare our inventory and national GHG inventory and also GHG emission reduction every year. And now we are preparing for 2017, but we have collected the data, and we have had some discussion with these two units. And this Friday we are going to discuss again to check the calculation, because after that we will send this data to Directorate for Inventory and Verification for the verification process. So the challenges is again for us here in the Directorate General of Climate Change is about the data. How can we collect the data, and how can we ensure that the validity of the data, and then also the time series of the data in sometime in most cases is still lacking, and in some activities they have been just started, so we cannot really calculate the emission reduction from this activity. That's the most challenges aspect. But for the forest fire, we have data that the case of forest fires has been reduced, and then the GHG emission from forest fire.
Do you want to make before we move?
Yes.
I'll ask you later to make your own statement later, but right now, please comment on what was just said. Okay.
Thank you very much. First of all, allow me to give the appreciation to inviting us to sharing for what we have done so far for peatland protection and management. First of all, I would like also, secondly, I would like also respond to what Ibu Emma mentioned, that yes, indeed, in terms of peatland protection and management so far, for what we have done so far, it result the reduction of fire hotspot, especially, and also peatland fire, and from the 2015 until 2017. The detailed data already mentioned by Dr. Agustus Tianto in the previous open remark. And the reduction is, yes, very, very big number for the CO2 emission. But yes, indeed, what Ibu Emma already mentioned, that several items that we need to more detailed discussion in depth regarding to improve for what we can do to contribute more better in the achievement of NDC's target, not in terms of reducing the forest fire only, but also in the other term, for example, in monitoring the water level. So far we have a data center to monitor the water level in field in the peatland area. We can see the progress of the increasing water level, sometimes less than 2.4 meter. Sometimes have to work more progressive to meet the 0.4 meters as standard of the healthy peatland area. Using either manual data monitoring, also data logger that in real time we can see from the data center. I hope we can hope that from the activities progress that we already that we made, we can calculate it not only for the forest fire itself, but also how to maintain water level and also how to maintain the land subsidence, avoiding the land subsidence, and also maintaining the land cover, something like that, that it is need to be discussed in depth.
Any other comments?
Yeah, thank you for your invitation, Pak. Just a small question, because Bu Emma Directorate is dealing with mitigation. So especially in peatlands, as we know that many institution is working in the peatland also. So we have, for example, BRG, and then we have also from the Ministry of Forest, Environmental and Forestry, and then other like, you know, like Pemda also working, like issuing the license. Now, how can you manage, or how can you coordinate with all that institutions to, you know, of course our government stated that we need to reduce the emission until to 29% in 2030 and 41% with the international assistance. So especially the peatland is one of the biggest emission from the land sector. So I think this is very important, how the Directorate Mitigation Action put coordination on that purpose. So from until now, what kind of what you call coordination system that maybe you take into action? Thank you.
The question is, what is the coordination system used to coordinate all these different agencies? Yeah.
Basically, in our NDC, we use sectoral approach, so it is a bit different compared to the previous mitigation target under the Presidential Regulation number 61, year 2011. So this is sectoral approach. So all the target divided into sectoral target, and then this ministry who has authority for this sector is the one who is responsible to ensure the achievement of this target. So it depends on the nature of this sector. This ministry could then distribute its responsibility to subnational and to other non-party stakeholders such as universities, private sectors, and also communities. For example, for the forestry sector, This 17.2% will be distributed to all related DGs. So it depends to DGs how they can distribute this target into their stakeholders. For example, for Directorate Pengendalian Kerusakan, so under Ibu Ati, the Directorate General will have the target. So Ibu Ati will then distribute this target. It up to Ibu Ati and with her stakeholders. Ibu Ati will then distribute this target, how many percent under the ministry, and then how many percent under the private sector, and then also the community. It's also that's for peatland, for example, and also similar approach will also be the same for the BRG. And also, for example, the other mitigation actions such as rehabilitation of land and forest. So the DG will take all the responsibility. Why we use this approach? Because in the previous mitigation action on the pre-2020, we have different baseline at national, at sectoral, and at sub-national level. So we cannot aggregate this number as a national achievement. So under this sectoral approach, subnational and also provinces will use the same baseline that has been calculated under the Ministry of Environment, so Environment and Forestry. So we have forestry's baseline, and then we have some calculation on how much it could be contributed for the peatland. We have a ministerial decree number 679 on year 2017 on the monitoring of NDC implementation, Pak Arif. So under this decree, all these related ministry that have this responsibility to coordinate its sector, so it is regulated under this decree. So far, now the process still under its ministry. In Ministry of Environment,
sector.
So maybe for some of you who don't know who I am, we started this more than 10 years ago. Like my company, we started looking into potential of conserving and restoring peatland as a way to make business. So 10 years had passed, and then I think the fact is peatland become the center of the debate and the issues, and we have learned a lot over the 11 years that actually, we can manage this properly. We can actually not only mitigate the climate change issue, but also help the community. So I think from a project level, I'm not going to talk about the project level at this time, but we'll be happy to share our findings if anybody have questions further. But I think what we are looking for right now is how can we, as a good project developers, contribute to NDC, and not only to contribute to NDC, how can we scale up therefore, Emma's concern that Indonesia might not reach that the unconditional NDC of 29% will be fulfilled, and there's a potential of even going further. So the question now is, we have to find a solution. How to integrate project like us, on a performance base into the system that support the achievement of NDC, and there are a few ways. I mean, if you look at it the past few years, people always look at this. When you conserve and protect peatland, it's always a cost center. Somehow they never thought that they can actually make money out of this, right? But I think the fact is there's a Paris Agreement, there's Article 6 openings, particularly on Article 6.4. There is a means to make this into a business that involves the private sector. I think, the reality is, government has been doing quite well in terms of putting a moratorium of peatland, opening or anything like that, but it will not be sustainable if you're asking private sectors to do it and not making revenue from this. So I think in Article 6.4, it gives incentive for basically non-party, in this case private sectors, how we can work it out. And where are we here? We should be looking at this more of a conditional. Indonesia have a unconditional and conditional NDC. So there is a conditional NDC that we can work on. And I think if you look at Article 6.4 in particular, there is what we call a result-based finance, and then there's a transfer-based finance. When I talk about result-based finance, it's something like where Norway will be putting $1 billion to help us, but Norway will not claim that credit that will be transferred into Article 6, supposedly, because it's called result-based. Like basically there's a country that's willing to help, then willing to help Indonesia to achieve that target, and then will not be part of the claim of that particular country. So I think this is very important from a political perspective, because everybody is very worried about if we getting money from the donor or somebody else, and they claim the credit while we are not able to achieve that NDC, then we might be short of that. So there is an angle of what we call the result-based finance on that Article 6.4 that we can pursue. But in addition to that, there's also what we call transfer-based finance, which I think is quite interesting, because transfer-based finance is where NDC can be transferred. Certain countries, between certain countries, and also involving the private sectors. So what I think people, I don't know if KLHK have looked at this, is to look at how do you, when you involve private sectors into doing this, particularly on peatlands, and if you actually decided that there's so many remaining peatland available and you involve private sectors to do conservation and restoration, will we achieve our NDC or even further than that? Because that's the next question. I think the question is government always look at this, okay, this is all what we can do. There's a lot of potential, but I think they have not been doing good calculation enough in terms of how the private sectors. One, I think I'm talking about on a peatland, but in addition to peatland, there are a lot of forest area that currently under natural forest concession, that a lot of the private sectors look into changing their business model. Why do we have to cut trees while we actually can get carbon finance better? So that will be a potential of going that. So I think, the government should look into these options and see how we can work together from our private sectors and how we can make this, into something that makes sense in our achieving 29 to 41%. I also want to point out that, in terms of the transfer, like I said, there's a result-based payment, result-based finance, there's a transfer-based finance. As you know that there's a ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization, have passed something called CORSIA. CORSIA is Carbon Offset and Reduction Scheme for international aviation. This is purely a market base. The point is, when we say transfer, when I talk about the transfer finance, this CORSIA will not be claimed by any other country either. It's unlike the transfer that we think that will be claimed by certain country. There is opportunity that, that you can sell credit, but nobody's claiming it. Because we are worried that somebody else will claim it, and the whole point of reduction of the global is not going to be achievable. So, I was lucky. I just want to, I am also appointed. Agus Mahmudin here is also, and I are working in the ICAO. We got invited to be part of the ICAO expert on the CORSIA matter. But I think there are a lot of means that government should look at. And I think the key is we have to be flexible on the policy basis involving not only the government. Government have to do this alone. And I feel somehow the government feel obligated, which is true. I think we appreciate that, but there is a way of non-state actor to help. as long as you make sure that there's enabling condition for that. I think, right now, as you know, that, KLHK is pushing for this BLU, which is in this case, the new Badan Layanan Umum for Lingkungan Hidup, which is some kind of payment, channeling all the funding coming in. If we can make this thing working on a private sector level, to create market. The idea is for private sectors, you have to create the market. Somebody will have to say that, if you're conserving peatland, if you are restoring peatland, there's a potential, not has to be right now, but there's a potential of making money out of this. And the BLU will be, for example, standby buyer or anything like that, because theoretically, this is what Norway wants to have by putting the money into this and a performance base. And we are not gonna we should be able to get that conditional NDC. We are not selling our carbon away to other countries to claim. So I think these are the things that I think we have to look into, and I think the government policy has to be there so that it'll help people, private sectors to be excited about. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Well, these are good comments. Government, you are being asked to comment maybe on the CORSIA question, or any other comments you want to make? No? Okay. Arif, any comments? Yeah, okay. It's early morning, everybody's waiting for the coffee, but you have to wait a bit more. So then everybody gets fresher. So looking at their 17% goal, that's the contribution of forestry to the 29%. What part of that would you claim could be taken up by the private sector? Is there any figure?
That's a good question. I don't have the figures, but I think, if you want to look at the potential of peatlands is there, right? If you look at that 17% because of the land use sector, then let's focus on the, peatland. Because peatlands can contribute a lot, as well as peatland can save a lot, right? So the idea is, let's just focus on peatlands and how we can help, engaging the private sectors. Right now, there's a lot of private sectors are being asked, private sector in palm oil business are being asked, you cannot open anymore. Your peatland, you have to, conserve, but there has to be a means for them to also generate revenue. So I don't have the data, but I will be surprised. I think from that 17%, it's probably somewhere, I think I read an article somewhere between 60 to 70% is coming from peatland. So it's a big chunk of numbers from that 17, even closer to 80%. So if we can tackle peatland, then we actually tackle most of the problems. And then not only that, we can scale up more on the other side as well. Thank you.
How do you see the costs of restoration? Because we know that costs are very often, costs of restoration are much higher than costs of conservation. But what's your take on that part?
Actually, cost of restoration is all, I agree with you, it's a lot. But it all, as a private sector, is a function of how much we can generate revenue, right? It might take you $100, $200 to restore a 1 hectares of peatlands. But if the peatland is still thick enough that have peat, that the baseline you can get more emission reduction coming out of it, and the carbon credit is $20, it doesn't matter. I think that, of course, if you look at it right now, if it's purely a project of restoration, and then with the current situation of the carbon market, it's not feasible. But private sectors are not betting on something that is not, they will be willing to bet something that is not feasible now, but in 5 years, it will be feasible better. This is, unfortunately, they're not going to bet on this. And I think that's why I think government have to step in to create that market.
So you don't see this market signal, not even on the far distant horizon?
I think it's going to come. I personally think that, the fact is the government is working on this BLU. If this BLU mandate to, okay, we're working, we will basically will be a standby buyer for all this activity. Just to be a standby buyer or certain pricing in the market is going to help. Because people will look at this and say, okay, if BLU said we will be paying $5 a ton for the emission reduction for this, and then private sector will start calculating, is that $5 for me okay? All the HPH will look at this and say, okay, is $5 actually cover my cost right now? I'm going to start making money. And then these things will create activities, right? And then because $5 is just a stand buyer, because at that time the market is going to come in, you know, then who knows, you'll be 10. I mean, at one point of time, carbon market was actually $25 a ton during the old days before, you know, the CDM market. So if $25 a ton numbers, you actually can do a lot. I mean, you know, you're going to incentivize a lot of private sector to change their business model, where actually activities, restoration activities will be a profitable business. I mean, right now, restoration activity is always a cost-based because it's expensive, particularly the peatland. But when you're talking about that, you know, abatement of $25 that you got paid for restoring, you can get, you know, you can get this business going.
Look at the world right now with all the heat waves going on everywhere, then maybe the signal might be coming quicker than you think. Okay, but thank you very much. I think we need to move on to Ibu Sri, or I think I understood you called Ibu Ati, is that right? Okay. So please, I mean, as the director of the Peatland Degradation Center, please give us your take on this. And particularly, also, I would appreciate if you could look at or give us some update on progress on data quality control, the one map policy. How does all this relate to peatlands?
Okay, thank you very much. Since the time is very, very narrow, 5 minutes, so we already actually prepare for the material for 10 minutes. So please, would you please help me to jump to the slide number 5. The regulation for the peatland protection and management. Yes, the government, next, number 5. Yes, the milestone of regulation related to the protection and management of peat ecosystem in Indonesia. The government of Indonesia, yes, indeed realized since 1990 by enacting the Presidency Decree number 32 regarding to the peatland protection and management in Indonesia. And the current government regulation is number 71 2014 and renewal by the government regulation 57 2016 regarding on the peatland ecosystem protection and management. And the government of Indonesia, especially for the Ministry of Environment and Forest, already enacted some technical guidance under the government regulation, under the Ministry of Environment and Forest regulation number P14 2017 regarding to the inventory activities of the to determine the peatland zone and peatland dome, and also P number 15 2017 regarding for the procedure or guideline for the water table measurement and maintenance, and also monitoring. And also the P number 16 2017 regarding on the peatland restoration and rehabilitation guideline for the degraded peatland. And the Ministry of Environment and Forest already enacted the Ministry of Environment and Forest Decree number 100 2009 and 129 and 130 of 2017 regarding of the determination of peatland hydrological unit and also peatland hydrological function that by regulation divided into 2, the peatland ecosystem function for conservation and also cultivation. Next, maybe. And based on the regulation, we also implement and having the strategy to meet the target for the peatland restoration and rehabilitation, and also of course conservation for the peatland that's still virgin that need to be conserved. The content of the regulation actually mandated for us to have a planning, utilization, controlling, and also maintenance for and supervision, and also administration sanction. Also determine the peat ecosystem function, peat ecosystem protection and management plan at national level, provincial level, and also in a district level. and also determine the standard for criteria for the degradation peat ecosystem and restriction on the utilization of peat ecosystem. And as I already mentioned before, there are several as a guideline to measure the water table and also peat degradation, and also how to develop the peatland protection and management plan. And when we talk about the protection and management of peatland, we base on the peat hydrological unit. Next, maybe this is the peatland map for the peat ecosystem function and also peat hydrological unit under the Ministerial of Environment and Forestry. Next, maybe. And this is the activities, the progress of activities, that the map that already enacted by the Ministry of Environment and Forest is under the scale of 250,000. But in operational scale, we have to develop the map under 150,000. That our homework until 2019 is about the 285 peatland hydrological unit that we have to develop the operational map. Next, maybe this is the achievement in terms of the community base. We already developed activities with communities at about several provinces, and achieve until 2017 is about 2,500 hectares. Next. And this is the achievement for the concession holders, not only the industrial forest, but also for the oil palm plantation. The Director General for the Pollution and Environmental Degradation Control have signed the document of the company peatland restoration plan about 152, and these activities or this document consists of determination of water table and then determination of rainfall monitoring, and also construction of canal blocking and rehabilitation, either to natural succession and others. And these activities will cover of progress or improvement of peatland restoration at about 2.5 billion hectares. Next, maybe this is the data center that we have that we already mentioned before. We collecting data and we can see the data from the data center, some data in real time. Next, and this is the achievement regarding to the contribution of the greenhouse gas emission reduction. That very, very big number from 2015 to 2017. The achievement of 2017 is about 1.56% if compared to the 2015. But yes, indeed, we still need to discuss with the Ibu EMA unit and also the MRV unit to determine how to calculate the contribution of the peatland restoration or peatland protection and management with the data from the monitoring of groundwater level, and also the monitoring of land subsidence that have been already developed, and also to meet, of course, the MRV requirement that either the community, either the company can claim what they already have been done so far to MRV unit, how to proper data and information to meet the MRV requirement to claim much more from the protection and management of peatland in Indonesia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting and exhaustive. For the sake of time, I will cut the discussion a bit short, but if somebody has one comment to make. No. I myself have a little bit of a side question. These reductions in fires are impressive, of course, compared to 2015. But we also know that 2015 was a very extreme fire. So what is your thinking about the possibility that such a strong fire could repeat itself, like in 2015, now, in the situation as it is now? Can it happen again, or do we have everything under control?
Hopefully not. Of course. Yes. From the current situation, so far we also monitor for the from the Sipongi, the database of the hotspot, and also we overlay for the concession holders area that already commit to the peatland restoration and also management. We can see that several hotspot, we cannot find the hotspot in the area that the company or the community that already try to support to restore and manage well. Sometime in the location that, yes, indeed, still not yet touched by that regulation so far. And
it's
hopefully,
matter
yes,
of implementation
yes,
further.
Yes, and hopefully, because in current achievement, I already mentioned that we already achieved 152 companies, and currently waiting to be discussed at about 88. The concession holders, especially for the palm oil industries, that waiting to be discussed and to be approved of their document, and hopefully it will help so far to maintain the water level and reduce the potential hotspot in the peatland area. And of course, we do appreciate for the BRG unit, BRG institution that already helping restore in the community area, that helping control the water level. They already developed the canal blocking, the monitoring well, and so on to maintain water level and the situation in the community area. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And another question, just out of curiosity, if I may ask. Are these, I mean, you showed an impressive array of data collection in different types of data, including hydrology and all that. Are these data publicly available, or is it just the ministry dealing with them? Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, but sorry to say, for the source data, we give the level of authority to access that data, not all in the very, very detailed information, because especially for the company data, because the company is still under liability system, so we cannot share in detail to the other stakeholders unless if there is something for compliance and enforcement mechanism. And yes, indeed, we can share a little bit more public information. Currently, we develop it's already what we call package in the proper packaging for all,
so
for
you
all
have
stakeholders.
To protect data privacy in some cases, but you
yes,
try to strive for more open data availability. Is that?
Yeah, but still some information still we have to keep it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to move on, and thank you very much, Ibu Ati. I'd like to move on to Arif, give you the floor. Finally, the last panelist. Let us know a little bit, how can the 29% emission targets be achieved from your point of view, and what would be the role of universities, particularly in, for example, monitoring or supporting the government or supporting private sector activities?
Yeah, actually, jadi hari ini saya coba bicara sedikit soal One Map Policy dan apakah benar bisa mempercepat restorasi lahan gambut gitu. Silakan dilanjut. Nah ini mungkin gambar yang saya lihat pertama kali ketika kita bicara soal restorasi. Ini mungkin milestone awal kenapa ada presiden perlu restorasi gitu. Karena kebakaran besar tahun 2015 dan beliau langsung ke lapangan melihat di gambut itu besar ya. Jadi statementnya seperti ini, bukan hal mudah memadamkan kebakaran di lahan gambut gitu. Ini Palembang 2015, 8 Oktober saya ambil dari merdeka.com, silakan. Nah akhirnya 3 bulan kemudian ada Perpres, ini nomor 1 2016 ya, tentang Badan Restorasi Gambut. Jadi setelah 3 bulan, setelah belusukan gitu ya, langsung keluar. Jadi ini kalau buat saya ini benar-benar seperti trademark ya, seperti benar-benar serius gitu pemerintah kita tentang bagaimana merestorasi gambut, bagaimana pemerintah itu benar-benar ingin paling tidak kebakaran di lahan gambut mereda ya atau selesai. Silahkan. Nah saya ini coba sarikan tadi Ibu Direktur sudah menyampaikan beberapa timelinenya ya. Jadi kita mulai dari tahun 95 sebenarnya kalau kita bicara soal gambut. 95 itu tentu teman-teman di sini sudah tahu bahwa ada proyek yang sedemikian besar tahun 95 ini berdasarkan Kepres ya 8295 tentang lahan gambut 1 juta hektar. Jadi dalam bahasa Inggris disebut Mega Rise Project, tapi di antara rekan-rekan kami itu jangan pakai MRP lah, pakai PLG Project saja gitu. Supaya lebih pas dengan keadaan zaman dulu. Nah kemudian proyek ini akhirnya meninggalkan banyak hal ya, kerusakan, terutama kebakaran. Ya, kebakarannya banyak sekali tahun 97-98 ini juga terjadi di sini. Kemudian lama berselang, ini gambut ini mungkin agak sedikit terlupakan gitu ya. Tidak juga ada kebijakan tentang perlindungan misalnya. Zaman dulu kita ingat HPH itu masuk hutan tentang pelindungan, kemudian ini ada PP-nya keluar 2014. Ini menjadi serius gitu ya. Dan akhirnya tambah serius ketika 2016 ada BRG. Nah kita lihat di sini bagaimana kebijakan dan eksekusi di lapangan itu perlu jadi satu. Sehingga intinya kita bisa melihat bagaimana sebenarnya pengelolaan gambut itu secara lebih baik gitu ya. Silahkan. Nah ini kaitannya dengan One Map. Jadi ada 9 ya, saya lihat di perpresnya 9 fungsi dari BRG. Nah silahkan diklik. Ada 4 paling tidak. Ada 4 fungsi yang terkait pemetaan. Ya, diklik lagi Mas. Oh nggak keluar ya. Jadi ada 4 ya di situ sebenarnya ada statement di situ. Kenapa? Kenapa ada 4 ya terkait pemetaan? Padahal kerjaan mereka kan sebenarnya rekonstruksi saja, restorasi ya. Seharusnya langsung lapangan restorasi ini bagaimana, tapi ada 4 yang terkait pemetaan. Kenapa? Diklik tadi juga sudah disampaikan dari ibu-ibu Bu Direktur juga, diklik Mas. Nah kita lihat apa yang ada di kita. Ini saya coba cari ya dari data yang lama sampai yang baru. Ada 2 data lama ya, Project LREP itu di pertanahan, di Kementerian Pertanian, kemudian di Kementerian Transmigrasi kita ada yang disebut land system, ini dari Project Report. Ini proyeknya lama sekali, tahun 87 dan tahun 89 dan ini sampai sekarang masih dipakai. Siapapun masih pakai, kalau ngomongin soal gambut, tanah, ya inilah petanya gitu, terbaik yang kita punya. Banyak orang bingung tentang 2 peta ini, peta dari LREP dan peta dari Report. Ada satu penelitian dari IPB, itu menyimpulkan bahwa peta ini berbeda. Hanya 1% yang sama. Jadi jangan tertukar antara peta LREP dan peta Report. Nah yang terakhir mungkin ini yang saat ini sering dipakai, 1:250.000 yang diproduksi oleh Kementerian Pertanian juga. Ini sebenarnya revised version dari wetland ya. Jadi wetland buat kemudian dilihat lagi oleh kementerian, kemudian akhirnya dikeluarkan 2011. Nah ini data yang ada tentang gambut. Jadi apakah ini cukup? Sebenarnya sih jauh dari cukup kalau kita bicara restorasi lahan di gambut gitu ya. 250.000 itu indikatif. Kalau kita mau ke lapangan bekerja itu paling tidak 25.000 atau 50.000 itu sudah minimal sekali gitu. Silakan diklik. Nah, sekarang One Map Policy. One Map Policy itu dipercepat dengan adanya Perpres nomor 9 2016. Jadi semangatnya besar, pekerjaannya juga banyak ya. Karena kita tahu banyak masalah di lahan itu sebenarnya apa? Ya masalah informasi atas lahan ya. Jadi kita bicara satu versi, satu georeferensi, satu basis data. Tapi ya kita sudah biasa sendiri-sendiri dari dulu. Kehutanan dulu berjalan sendiri, pertanian berjalan sendiri, ini sendiri apa? Bakosur tanah namanya sendiri, lapas sendiri. Nah ini menjadi bola panas ketika harus disatukan gitu. Sehingga ternyata pekerjaan ini sulit sekali. Silakan. Nah ini kita bisa lihat 85 peta tematik, 19 kementerian lembaga, 34 provinsi harus jadi satu. Bukan main pekerjaan yang tidak mudah gitu ya. Bahkan ada yang orang bilang 100 tahun bisa selesai. Jadi sebenarnya kasihan juga Badan Informasi Geospasial dan Kementerian Ekonomi kalau harus benar-benar dipacu gitu ya. Tapi sebenarnya One Map Policy itu akan berjalan apabila kepemimpinannya itu benar-benar masuk ya, leading by the political commitment. Jadi itu yang harus jadi utama. Nah diklik lagi. Nah ini One Map Policy, too many work, too many institution. Banyak sekali sehingga apakah ini akan greasing peat restoration? Saya kira akan sulit ya kalau kita dari restorasi meminta One Map Policy untuk membantu. Jadi saya kira sangat wajar kalau misalnya BRG memetakan atau dari kementerian juga memetakan gambut. Tapi satu hal itu harus jangan jadi sendiri-sendiri lagi gitu. Bekerjanya harus dengan standar yang sama, database yang sama dan seterusnya yang masuk dalam One Map. Nah silahkan, ini terakhir mungkin. Jadi apakah One Map mensupport peat restoration atau sebaliknya? Saya kira sebaliknya gitu ya. Jadi lahan gambut itu orang bilang dulu no man's land. Artinya nggak ada lah yang mau gitu ya. Masyarakat aja nggak ada yang mau. Tapi karena capital flow akhirnya dipakai. Dan akhirnya banyak sejarah juga ya mencatat bahwa ada yang berhasil, ada yang gagal gitu. Nah artinya dengan adanya BRG dan program dari Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup dan Kehutanan itu saya kira bagus ya, paling tidak exercise One Map gitu. Jadi peta dasarnya dibenahi, kemudian juga konflik resolution ya, masalah kadastar tata batas yang jadi masalah di lapangan itu menurut Mongabe, saya baca di Mongabe itu sudah dilakukan. Sehingga one map itu, kalau pengen saya berkesimpulan bahwa one map itu dalam praktis, dalam prakteknya itu jangan sektoral tapi harus tematik gitu ya. Dalam perubahan iklim itu bisa dibuat one map policy karena masalahnya di situ, dan juga berhubungan dengan peat restoration karena peat gambut ini dia multi stakeholder, multi institusi seperti saya juga tanya tadi. Oke. Dan kira-kira seperti itu. Dan dalam banyak kasus satu isu memperkuat yang lain. Mungkin itu. Terima kasih. Mohon maaf terlalu lama. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I didn't expect these presentations, but I wasn't informed, but I think it runs up nicely. Is your university involved in one of these many institutions or not?
Well, my institution is what do you call cabang ya, cabang from BIG, okay. A branch for selling maps.
Okay.
Kind like that lah. For Lampung province.
Okay, that's good.
Anyway.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's been an interesting session. We are a bit over time. We have 15 minutes. I'd like to open the floor for questions and comments from the audience, please. There's somebody up there. You too. Okay.
Terima kasih. Selamat pagi ya, saya pakai bahasa Indonesia aja ya, biar seperti Pak Arif. Pertama, saya ingin menanyakan isu kemungkinan double counting untuk NDC. Jadi bagaimana, apakah sudah ada prosedur kita untuk mencegah hal ini terjadi? Misalnya ada perusahaan asing atau di luar negeri kan ingin meng-offset karbon. Dia bekerja di Indonesia, dia mengklaimnya nanti ke pasar. Nah, sedangkan perusahaan itu ingin menuruti aturan tentang gambut ya PP 71 itu, ya kan? Namun tidak bisa meregistrasi gitu kan, karena tidak ada KHG-nya gitu. Tapi gambutnya ada gitu. Nah, apakah ini tidak bisa dipikirkan ada solusi bagaimana perusahaan-perusahaan yang belum ada terdapat dalam KHG tetapi memiliki gambut bisa juga ikut mendaftar atau ikut serta dalam mensukseskan restorasi gambut yang akan kita lakukan dalam jangka panjang. Saya memandang restorasi gambut ini dalam program gitu ya. Kita tahu BRG akan berakhir tahun 2020, tapi tidak berarti program restorasi gambut juga berakhir. Seperti itu. Nah, baik. Dari saya Gusti Ansari dari Universitas Tanjung Pura. Terima kasih.
So unfortunately, this doesn't work anymore. I didn't get anything. So of the translation, I'm sorry. So I just would like to ask who wants to comment or answer.
Thank you. I have to first comment. Terima kasih Pak. Maybe I speak in bahasa Indonesia much better to comment the question dari Pak Gusti. Is that the translation works?
I don't know. I don't hear anybody talk. I don't hear you talking. The translator. I don't hear you talking. And it's on any channel. So.
Yeah. Regarding to the peat hydrological unit, the KHG map. Yeah. We Yes, indeed. In the enaction of the ministerial decree under number 129 and 130 is based on the map of Balai Penelitian Pertanian the Ministry of Agriculture have. So there is no overlap because we refer to that. In scale of 1 to 250. Ya. Dengan peta itu, with this kind of peta, of course, we need to, because this is the indicative map, so we need more operational. Sometime in the field, we find the mineral area, but in the map is cultivation, peatland area with the cultivation function. But sometime, as you mentioned, maybe we can not find in the map but exist in the field. Dengan kondisi seperti ini, with this situation, we open for the company to discuss about what they voluntarily will do to contribute in the peatland protection and management. Not only for the company that already pointed, that already mandated to develop, plan and implemented the restoration of peatland in their area under the Directorate General for the Pollution and Environmental Degradation Control degree letter that appointed to hundreds of companies to do the restoration. But if they don't receive the letter and voluntary and they want to contribute to the restoration of peatland, we welcome to discuss. Jadi terbuka Pak, kalau dalam kondisi ternyata di lapangan itu memang ditemukan peatland di kawasan areanya dan kami berterima kasih ada komitmen di sana untuk berpartisipasi di dalam berkontribusi di dalam perlindungan dan pengelolaan ekosistem gambut. Tentu saja kami akan terbuka untuk diskusi dan kemudian menyusun rencana yang tentu saja sesuai dengan kondisi di lapangan. Untuk kemudian ditetapkan dalam SK Dirjen Pelindungan Pencemaran dan Kerusakan Lingkungan untuk dokumen pemulihannya dan kemudian perencanaan pelaksanaan pemulihannya per triwulan, per bulan, per triwulan, per tahun dan seterusnya sampai benar-benar memang target untuk perbaikan dari ekosistem
Gusti about the possibility of double counting Pak. Ya Pak, jadi tahapan sekarang ini kita masih melihatnya secara total untuk perhitungan lahan secara spasial karena kalau kita lihat satu persatu per aksi itu masih banyak kegiatan-kegiatan yang belum bisa dihitung penurunan emisi gas rumah kacanya. Nah pada saat nanti kita akan berproses untuk melakukan perhitungan, kita akan cek satu persatu sebetulnya lokasinya di mana. Makanya kami mengumpulkan data dan bekerjasama dengan seluruh Direktorat Jenderal dan nanti juga hari Jumat dengan Bu Ati juga kita duduk sama-sama. Ini sebetulnya yang melaksanakan kegiatan siapa itu harusnya data itu ada di masing-masing Direktorat Jenderal. Sehingga pada saat misalkan itu sudah tercover di nasional, misalkan di bawah di dalam sektor kehutanan, ternyata kemudian itu juga diklaim oleh suatu perusahaan, kemudian misalkan dijual kemana. Nah ini yang memang kita harus hindari Pak. Ini harus ada mekanisme bagaimana supaya hitungan tersebut tidak menjadi double counting ataupun ada suatu klaim yang tidak diketahui justru bahwa itu sebetulnya menjadi target nasional tetapi kemudian ternyata dijual. Nah itu yang memang sampai saat ini seperti tadi concernnya Pak Darsono memang ini masih dalam proses kita menyusun peraturannya masih agak jauh Pak diskusinya karena kita terus terang saja untuk penurunan emisi gas rumah kaca ini masih lebih fokus kepada kegiatan yang ada di kementerian dan di subnasional. Kenapa? Karena itu yang ada di dalam kontrol pemerintah. Kita bisa berani mengkomitmenkan karena ini jangka panjang sampai 2030. Kontrolnya adalah di budgeting, di perencanaannya itu ada semua di pemerintah. Kalau dengan swasta kita masih belum mendapatkan mekanismenya untuk memastikan bahwa nanti dunia usaha itu secara jangka panjang karena bicara sampai 2030 mereka secara konsisten bisa mengikuti penurunan emisi gas rumah kaca. Jadi terima kasih Pak Gusti mengingatkan, tapi memang itu sudah menjadi catatan kami. Nanti di dalam proses verifikasi itu akan dicek juga. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you very much for the question and also the replies. Daniel, please.
Thank you. Ibu Ati, you mentioned in your presentation that KLHK has the responsibility to restore degraded peatland in private land concession holders. But when I read the master plan of BRG, the priority of restoration is 2.4 million hectares and 1.4 is private lands. And then 0.7 million is conservation area and the rest is community area. Do you have any comment about these conflicting issues, if I may say it?
Yeah, thank you for the questions. Very good question because the target of BRG, yes, indeed. Yesterday, Pak Aludohong already mentioned in the meeting with SECAP why the 2.4 million billion hectares that we have to achieve, and the private 1 billion in the private sector. Similar comment with this yesterday meeting, as I already mentioned, for the private sector, we use command and control to give the mandate under the government regulation 71 and 57 2016. They have a mandate to protect and also manage the peatland in sustainable manners. Of course, if in the cultivation area, they have to finish until the cycle is end. The cycle of the activities is end and also closed. And also the cultivation, yes, still they can do the activities in the cultivation function. But they have to manage the water level to meet the 0.4. Since this is the mandate, so we use the command and control to the company. And of course, we have to refer to the ministerial function and task to conduct the coordination of the policy and also the command and controls matters for the private sectors to do the peatland restoration and management. And of course, if we see the presidential decree for the BRG institution, as Dr. Aludohong yesterday mentioned, that there is a mandate also for coordination. So not only by the BRG itself, but also the other stakeholders that can contribute for the increasing or encourage the private sectors to doing the sustainable manners in the peatland restoration and management. But if I highlight, it is the task for the Ministry of Environment and Forest to doing the command and control, to monitor, to what we call pengawasan, yeah, and investigate whether they do the the correct thing or not. And the target, so of course the total target is 2.4 and the 1 billion is already met by what we have done by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So still the other number of area, the other number of hectares left in 7 provinces that coordinated by the BRG. This is a simple question from me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We have time for one quick question and one quick answer. Luca, please. Gender? Okay. Yeah, I know there are many people, but we have to look at the time. So please, just one sentence question, if you can.
Third annual communication to the UNFCCC once already made the statement that there had been a lot of progress on addressing fires, and the example was given in the reduction of hotspots up to 2014, but then 2015 there were many hotspots again. So I think perhaps one suggestion would be you might want to think about perhaps a multi-year monitoring system that takes into account the weather patterns and therefore comparing climatic and hydrological years, because now you have all those monitoring points, so that would probably avoid being criticized for saying, well, it was an easy year because there was so much rain. And that, I think, it's very important for the MRV system. Mm-hmm. And just if I could have one quick clarification from whoever wants to reply to that is, so the BRG has a target of 2.4 million hectares, I think, if I understand correctly, and the NDC speaks about 2 million hectares, or at least the presentation I've seen about the NDC, 2 million hectares peatland restoration by the year 2030. So are those 2 million hectares the same as BRG target, or is that additional? So is that 2 million hectares by the NDC separately by 2030, plus 2.4 by sort of in the document for the BRG, or not? Thank you.
That were actually 2 questions, but so one is one question is or suggestion about the monitoring, and the other one is about whether the 2 million are the same as the 2.4 million in the BRG. Quick answer.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, you're right that you refer to the third national communication that we put the numbers of the reduction of the case of hotspot and also the GHG emission reduction with regard to the forest fires. For the second question, yeah, in our assumption, we put the 20 million hectare in the progress of the BRG, but we just put it as a total at the national wide of the area. So it could be similar, it could be different, but in our modeling we only put the 2 million hectares.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think I'm sorry for all those that had more questions and comments. Ibu Ani, please come forward and talk directly to the panelists. I think we have come to the end of this very interesting first panel. Indonesia is clearly on the way to become a leader on on tropical peatlands, and we are in CIFOR. We are very excited about these news about the Peatland Center, and we are happy to support this with all we can. I'd like you to ask you to give a round of hands to the panelists, to which I thank you very much. Thanks for your contributions and thanks for your questions, and now it's coffee time.